Hello, and welcome to another episode of Search Off the Record, a podcast coming to you from the Google search team, discussing all things search and, who knows, maybe having some fun along the way. My name is John Mueller, a part of the Google Search Relations team. I'm joined today by Lizzi Sussman, also from the Search Relations team. Hi, Lizzi. What's new?
Hey, John. Well, there are so many things new. I feel like this week's current obsession is probably the fact that I have now gotten myself 3 carnivorous plants. I had 1 and now I have 2 more. So I don't know if that qualifies as like an obsession, but probably if you have more than 1 and you're wanting to speak about it, it's an obsession. But I think I'm trying to figure out how to keep them alive and then also motivated to kill.
So if you're a vegetarian, can you eat a carnivorous plant?
Oh, I don't know if that would taste it. Are they poisonous? I think that they have some poison in there, but maybe it's just for the bugs.
I don't know.
This is a good question that I feel I should know the answer of as like an owner of killer plants. So some of them, I have like the basic one, the Venus flytrap one. I don't know. Vanessa, do you have carnivorous plants?
I have tried several different carnivorous plants, and I have not been able to keep any of them alive, even though I tried to give them little buggies. My plan was I had like a little arrow garden that attracted bugs, so I put the carnivorous plants all around the arrow garden to try to be pest control for my garden, and I could not keep them alive. So I'm the worst person to ask. I do find the question interesting. I'm a vegan, and so it's interesting that I had carnivorous plants, and it was encouraging these eating of other species on our planet. So I'm gonna have to really think about that one now. I've never had that ethical. What am I doing here? Am I helping or hurting nature?
This is not a plant podcast, I don't think. I think it could be. I mean, we've talked about it being a cooking podcast, and this is sort of related because I got the carnivorous plants to be pest control in the kitchen for the fruit fly situation that sometimes happens near bananas. But
it seems brilliant.
It seems brilliant, but I think the fruit flies are too small for the Venus flytrap, which I think they need like a larger bug to trigger the, closing of the mouth.
You got to go hunt them outside and bring them back.
Yeah. And the plant guy at the plant store, he said that they should actually live outside and not inside in Zurich. Like they can live in the winter too, apparently, and that they would be happy out there, and that they prefer rainwater because the water here is too nutritious for them, and they won't be motivated to kill because then they are getting fed from the water that you're watering them with.
So you also have to go start capturing rainwater outside. This is going to become a full-time job for you.
Yeah, I know. Where I'm now servicing these plants that are supposed to be working for me. Who's in charge here?
Speaking of who's in charge, I thought maybe I would jump back a little bit. So as you notice, Vanessa is here. This is Vanessa Fox.
Hello.
And this is in the Spotlight series from the podcast where we kind of invite folks from the larger search marketing community kind of to come over and join us here. I was mostly curious, right about when I joined Google, you were also at Google, but then you left. Was it because of me?
John, I haven't wanted to tell you this. I've been keeping this to myself all this time, but I just had to get out of there now. It's not true at all. So yeah, it is interesting. You and I crossed paths briefly. And, at that point, I had been building up Webmaster Central. I guess you want to call it kind of all the different components of that. And the things had really evolved. And then you came in as part of that wonderful evolution. And yeah, that just happened to be, I'd kind of okay, everything's set, I can move on to other stuff. And actually my thought at that time was to kind of get out of SEO and go do something else. Cause my thought was, okay, I've done this, now let me do something else. And obviously that did not work out all that because here I am still quite loving every minute of it. So
cool. So how did you get started in all of this? Like, was it like Larry and Sergey came up to you and was like, you should make a tool for webmasters and call it Webmaster Tools?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so interesting because it was really sort of the opposite of that. In fact, Larry and Sergey did not know about it, and I don't know that they...
Do they still not know about it?
They were quite surprised, I think, when they... it was an interesting time. So when I joined Google, which was way back in early 2005, it was really a different time, right? And I joined the Kirkland office, which was the Seattle office basically at the time, and there were 25 people there. So very small office. And my background before joining Google was pretty eclectic. I was technical writing. That was how my career started. And then from there, got really involved in product management, UX, and I spent a lot of that time with an engineering audience. So really a developer audience doing APIs and that type of thing, but also did a bit of marketing. And so I built a website for the company I worked for in 95. It was cutting edge. I was like, we need to have a website. I was like the marketing person at the company. So, I kind of had this eclectic background that ended up coincidentally working out really well for what happened when I went to Google. So when I got there, like I say, 25 people, I think there were 2,200 people or something at the company in total. So dynamic at the time was just really free for all, right? And so the director of engineering at that Kirkland office was really looking to start a project that was just from that office. And the way it worked, I got hired and I didn't have a manager, and it was just find a project. And I was like, okay, and so I would go down to Mountain View and I would work on these projects, but it was very hard, because I'm not in the Mountain View office. And then only a month or two in, this head of the Kirkland office decided to do something called sitemaps. And it was this idea, right, of okay, we'll do this XML file. That's all it was at the beginning. Let's do this XML file, and site owners can give us a list of URLs to crawl and index on their site. And then that'll be, at that time, you could imagine 2005, discovery it still can be hard, right? But a lot of sites didn't have any links to them, or it was hard sometimes to find all the pages of the site. So I was like, oh, I could work on this project because it's local and it's within my area of expertise, right? Because it's a technical, I can write the docs for it. And so it really started with that, right? And then once I got involved in that, again, since my personality is very much just what needs to happen and just sort of tackling that, and the culture of the company at that time was, hey, what do you think is interesting to work on? I really started to say well, who is this audience that we're building this for? And what's the audience inside of Google that we're building this for? And what do both sides need, right? And at that time, of course, I knew nothing. And so I just started to investigate on my own, research the audiences. And from there, heard about this person named Matt Cutts. And I was like, oh, let me talk to this guy. He seems to be involved in this audience and know what's going on. And interestingly, Matt, in a way, had the same experience where he was head of the spam team, right, on the engineering side. But he also has that kind of personality, who is the audience? What do they need? And so from there, he already had established, of course, this very robust relationship with site owners, SEOs, and was helping them really on his own time, right? He had a blog, he would post in forums. And so I started talking to him, and that's really where it started, is we just had this idea of who is the audience and what do they need? And so we just made it up. That
sounds like the best way to kind of move forward for something like that.
So John, you may recall, right, these early days when XML sitemaps first launched, what was your recollection of that?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like interesting timing from my side, because that was right about the time, like I was working at my own company, and right about that time I started getting interested more in websites and kind of wondering why my website wasn't really showing up in search. And then the whole sitemap stuff was launched, and I thought, like, I could just write a Windows tool to do this. And it basically just went downhill or uphill from there, I guess. I don't know, like one of the directions.
So was it sitemaps.org first and then the tool, or what was the series of launches? Like, there's a lot of things called sitemaps, like everything, like the branding was like sitemaps. We are sitemaps. Gosh. Oh no.
Yes. Sitemaps.org. So let me tell you about that. So first of all, yes, sitemaps was how it launched, and originally it was just the XML sitemap. I think we had a Python generator or something, but then some tools like John's third-party tools came out that were other ways of generating sitemaps, and it just really started out like that. And then as part of this, hey, what do people need? But also, how do we get people interested in sitemaps? Like, there was a goal, right, of like, how many sitemaps can we get submitted? And so the thought was like, can we offer people something else, like data, for instance, to get them to come and sign up, and then we could get them to do sitemaps. And so initially, once it became like a UI and it had, I think, the query stats and a couple other things, we still called it sitemaps initially, right? So at that point, there were two things called sitemaps, the UI and the actual file. And of course, sitemap was already a term, HTML sitemap. So that was already, it's still to this day confuses people. Separately, so a parallel track from that, we were trying to make XML sitemaps be a web standard. And so we were working with the other major search engines at the time, which was Microsoft and Yahoo, to get them to accept this as well. And so that's where sitemaps.org came from. And so how that came to be, that sitemaps.org, is that behind the scenes, like, of course, there's like legal people and marketing people and whoever, like, trying to figure this out. And so we would have these calls, these like conference calls, and we would talk about like, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, this is what it's going to be. And so in order for everyone to come to an agreement, it was like, okay, well, we need to see what this looks like. So I have a very poor website development skills, right? So I basically took like Notepad or something, and I like coded this very basic HTML website to just say, okay, here's the protocol, like here's what we're going to say. So I put that up as like sitemaps.org, and it was like this we had to use neutral color. Like, we couldn't use the colors of Google or Microsoft. Like, it had to be something else, right? So I just picked, I don't know, this like burgundy red or something. And it was like the most basic thing you ever saw, just so that everyone could see and agree. So everyone did. Somehow that became like there was no one to come in and make a real site. Like, so they just kept that Notepad version. And that's what launched. And then I saw when schema.org launched, it launched the same color scheme.
They copied it. They're like, this is like the aesthetic now. Like, we have to use it. It's like a look, the fonts, everything.
And I think it may still look that way today. I mean, I think at some point someone went in and added like JavaScript menu drop downs or something. It's like the same thing that it was when I just was typing my thing in Notepad. So I do find that funny still. I really love that.
So awesome. It's like everyone is like, oh, this was done on purpose by this fancy designer, and we must keep this. So good.
That's where that started.
And then you started blogging. There was also the Sitemaps Blog. At some point, there was this like huge flurry of like, we're going to post about this.
Products didn't have blogs. There was like one other product that had a blog, and like there was the main Google blog. And Karen Wicker, who you all may know, like, she was in charge of that blog. She's awesome. She was very much for other products having blogs, right? Even though, like, as a company, I think blogging was kind of like, it wasn't that it was new, but it kind of was new. And it was like, oh, I don't know, we don't know if everybody should just be posting all this stuff all the time. But like, since we were in this off-site office. It was really small. There was no one paying attention to us. I didn't know, like, I was new to the company. No one told me what I could do and couldn't do, you know? And so I'm like, oh, there's a blog. Let's just start a blog. Like, hey, the other thing too, kind of, you know, related is that the product was beta. This kind of moves ahead a little bit, but like all the products at the time were these beta products. Like Gmail was beta, like there was no, and it got to the point at some point where I was like, why is this beta? Like this, we should just take the beta label off, right? I didn't know like that there was a process or that no products had done that, or, you know. So anyway, the blog was kind of that way, and that's kind of how it started. And then once, like I say, I was talking with Matt, and then Matt's like, oh, you should come to these conferences and really talk to people. And so he had me come to a, you know, search marketing conference, and, you know, really start to see, oh, people have a lot of questions and they need a lot of things, right? And so because, again, my background, I'd done a lot of technical writing and I'd written help centers in the past, I just wrote basically a whole help center. I went and talked to, there was this like support team that like answers email for all of Google. And at that time, there was just this team that basically you would email support, and it could be about anything. It could be about why isn't my site in search? It could be about ads, Gmail, whatever it was. And so I spent a ton of time with them, like finding what are all the questions people are emailing you? What are the canned answers that you're using? And I think we like reduced the support emails by 80% or something, right? Because we like zeroed in on the questions that everyone was asking. And so, yeah, from there kind of built this help center, and then kind of the early version of the tools. And so all that existed before any of this was a single page, and it was the Webmaster guidelines, but it was a very short, small page, right? And it was, I think it was at google.com/webmasters. So we took that over, right? That folder structure, and like just launched all this stuff. And then we turned the Webmaster
at the root.
Yeah. We turned the Webmaster guidelines into this like much more comprehensive, you know, thing. And well, Marissa Meyer, right, was like head of, whatever her title was. She's like basically head of all the product managers, head of all the product, kind of in charge of everything. And so she didn't know any of this was going, like we didn't run anything by anybody. And so she was, apparently she would give talks, you know, and she'd be like, oh, and, you know, we, not for site owners, but like just like more PR talks, right? Of like, oh, hey, as part of search, we have these guidelines that like, that the algorithms really make sure that everything adheres to. And she would just pull up google.com/webmasters to show this single page. And she did that apparently at one point, and it was not there. And so that was the first time that she knew of us. She was like, what is happening? I was like, oh no. It all worked out in the end. But that was how that really started. So yeah, from there, like we just like, you know, really dove in. And then, so it was very, as you can imagine, quite a fun thing to, like I say, dive in on both the audience side and the inside of Google side. What do you all need? And come up with what we could, you know, you're always also like, okay, you can't let spammers know what's going on. You know, there's always this like, you know, the tension of all that. And so my inclination is always to provide as much help and information as possible. So like understanding what would really make sense to include and not include. It was quite a involved, fun process.
Cool. And that kind of led, I guess, to Webmaster Tools and the comprehensive guidelines and all of that. As
that started, you know, we were like, we got to change the name. We can't call it Sitemaps, right? And so we came up with this like Webmaster Central, right, for the whole thing, and then Webmaster Tools for just the data part of it. And the big debate there was, you know, what do you call it? Everyone had opinions. And Webmaster, you know, as you all recall from back in those days, everything was used that term. And like the Webmaster was like the person in charge of the website. And there was so much debate, though, of like, what could we use instead? You know, because it seemed like the things were beginning to shift away from that. But it was so early that there wasn't a good term. But we spent so much time talking about that.
Were there any other options, like even remotely close, that you recall that were like, oh, maybe any like personal favorites?
Not that I can recall, like internally. It's interesting, right? Because it was called the console internally. And I think now that's the external name for it. The internal name of the team was Webmaster Happiness. So we did have that webmaster term in there, but it was like we had shirts made up, right, that said Webmaster Happiness. Like everything kind of was around like how could we really help this group of people. So webmaster was such a that term was just so commonly used. Now there's so many, like you could certainly say site owner, but we were like, it may not be the owner of the site. It may not be just the marketing side. It's not just the technical side. Like even now, right, it's hard to come up with the term for what it would be.
It's because there's so many people that could be touching a website. That's not like one term. That's site owner.
Yeah, and we started with the SEO audience, even though we were like, this isn't just for like SEOs, but like in 2006, 2007, they were still the ones most interested in this kind of data and the ones that worked on it the most. So there were also a lot of discussions of like, who is the audience? It shouldn't just be SEOs, but like they are the ones who care the most right now. So we need to cater to them first. So definitely a lot of, discussions about all that.
So cool. And then as you kind of transitioned away from Google, you wrote a book, I remember. How did that come up?
So then once I did, leave Google and I was doing other things, I wasn't planning on continuing to be involved in SEO at all. I thought I'd, be doing something else. But then this, I kept getting all these questions, right? And I was still speaking at conferences because I was getting invitations, but then I would get emails all the time, right? And then people would just, ask me questions all the time. So I got this opportunity to write a book and I thought, oh, great, I can just answer all the questions in a book and that's going to solve it. And so I wrote this book, Marketing in the Age of Google, which is a great experience. And I still think the book holds up, right? Even though there's older information, the fundamentals are the same, right? But I found that I still got as many or more questions than before. I was spending so much time on that I eventually was like, oh, maybe I should charge for all this advice that I give. And then I ended up staying in SEO, and now it's been, years and years, and I love it. I feel like there's always new challenges no matter what I work on. I feel like there's always something new. And I spent some time, I built up kind of an agency for a while where I had people working for me. But now to me, I just prefer kind of the one-on-one type thing. So, that's what I've been doing since. I also launched software, right, that uses the Google Search Console API, really diving into the query data part of it. It started with the book. The point of the book was using data about what people search for to understand audiences. So it really started from that of how can we take the query data and turn it into categories and track things at a topic level, that kind of thing. And so that still continues to this day. We've got that software out there, which is Key Lime Toolbox. So yeah, and even now, because these questions are coming up again, now, I'm wanting to launch now a new education site to bring it back full circle, right? It's the same. I'll just one last...
Sitemaps, V2. No.
So just one last story I'll tell you about this. In 2006, right, I wrote on Matt Cutt's blog this post about using hyphens in URLs, okay? Which at 2006, things were different. Once a month, I'm in a call with someone's like, we changed all the URLs on our site to use hyphens because we know that that's a best practice. And I'm like, no, it's all my fault. I'm coming to haunt myself, So, so I'm like, okay, that's the idea of this new site is let's just get some fundamental best practices, not kind of all of the extra, stuff that you see, but just here's kind of some fundamental reference to fall back on to kind of make up for all that stuff that's out there.
So cool. So you'll be answering the question about subdirectories versus subdomains?
Well, John, I feel like no one's ever figured that out yet. Has anyone talked about that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
The endless questions.
yeah. Fun times.
So cool.
Endless, yeah.
So why did you call it Key Lime Toolbox and not like Webmaster Tools or?
I know, right? Because don't you know by now I'm terrible at naming. Hasn't this discussion told us anything? Yeah, I mean, like I couldn't come up with anything else other than webmaster or site owner or whatever, right? So it's like, let's just use a name that means nothing. That's just like a fun, happy name. Like a name does not have to be what it is. Of course, that has brought its own share of problems. Just
like
because
it's tools for lime farmers or something, or
it's like no one knows what it is then, right? So that's why the new site is like, we got to come up with like a name that is just boring and descriptive. Yeah.
So cool. Well, thanks for joining us here. It's been super fascinating and fun to have you here, kind of talking about the olden times.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so fun to think about so long ago.
Yeah. Where can folks find you if they have any questions and want to send you?
Well, I'm on Twitter, of course, Vanessa Fox. The software, right, is keylimetoolbox.com. And then the new site that's not launched yet, I just have an email sign up, is SEOcompendium.com, which maybe is too long of a word. We'll see. But yeah. And then if you want, the nature pics, I'm also on Instagram, Vanessa.
Nature
J.
pics.
Fox.
Oh, we didn't even go like
I know.
photography too.
I know.
What the heck?
The deer, the hummingbirds, the rabbits, you got it all on my Instagram. So that'd be where I'd start.
I don't know. I think we're doing like a follow-up podcast, like a branch off series about hummingbirds and killer plants.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely. I'm all in on that.
Well, we'll have to move on to a different topic for the next episode. Sorry. Because next time on the Search Off the Record podcast, we'll have another exciting episode for you from folks from the Search Relations team. We've been having fun with these podcast episodes, and I hope you, the listener, have been finding them both entertaining and insightful as well. Feel free to drop me a note on Twitter or chat with us at one of the next virtual or in-person events that we go to if you have any thoughts. And, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.